Hello, everyone. So today we'll be having another podcast, spiritual podcast, and here I have invited Francesca, whom I was working with for a few months, some time back, and I invited her to talk about and have a discussion about self-love and why self-love is not selfish. Because there's a belief that if you love yourself, that means you're selfish. And today we're going to talk about like how powerful when you start really loving yourself, how that completely transforms their life. So here I have some real example. Francesca's life has completely transformed when she started really loving herself. So she will be sharing her experience apart from me having the discussion about self-love. So Francesca, hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm very great. Thank you.
So tell me about like where you are from and like would you like to share a little bit about yourself and what you're doing? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm 31. I'm from Italy, and when I met
Italy
you,
where?
I
Yeah. Italy where?
from near Venice, Padua,
Okay. Okay.
and I met you through YouTube. I do remember I saw one of your videos, and I
Yeah.
really felt like I wanted to know more because I felt like you had a even though I am, like I've always been very interested in the spiritual or development field, I felt like your approach was something that I've never heard before. So I wanted to dig deeper. And so we
Yeah.
started working together.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was at a place of, I was feeling kind of hopeless. I was curious, but not very, like I wasn't like, yeah, this is the thing that is gonna
I
bring real
know.
change to my life. And then we started working together.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, like, I do remember, I even remember our first session, and I came in with not very much hope, as I said, much more of, I came from a place of curiosity rather than hope.
Yeah.
And I really felt like, um, we connected in a way, or rather that you understood what I needed at the time. And you, and we created a space in which we could, um, in which you could access parts of me that I wasn't aware of in a way. And you held those parts for me. I felt like you held those parts for me when I wasn't ready, especially the one regarding anger and self-hatred in a way, like I learned self-hatred, and you helping me seeing those parts and not hating them really, really, really made a difference in my path.
Yeah. That's that's amazing to hear. So like talking about Francisca's story, like so what made you really trust this whole spiritual coaching process because there are so many methodologies out there. So what really made you connected to that and just felt like, okay,
I
this is
guess
I want to try it, yeah. Or like how did you find that trust? Because there are so many options out there like psychologists, psychiatrists. So what made you think that this is what you need to like go for it and then how did you make that trust?
I feel like it's the way you carry yourself. Like you made me feel that you firsthand is the one who is experiencing everything that you preach. And this cannot be faked. It can only be felt or not felt, and I felt it. And as I said, it's the way you held me. I felt like it was firm, but also loving in a way, like accepting and as I said, this cannot be faked. It can only be felt. It's either there or not, and it is there. I mean, like for me at least, it is clear that you walk the path you preach, and so you really help me. Like you help me look at my blind spots in a way that I've never before. They are blind spots for a reason, and I wasn't able to, look at them. And also, I do remember after our first session, and then all that came after, the spark that I felt in my energy, like I felt like my energy level were like boom.
Oh, that's
I said whenever
amazing.
it was, I don't know if you remember that, but whenever I used to get up after my sessions, I was like, I was lit. I was alive in a way. I felt like way more alive after our sessions than I was before. And as again, this is something that can only be felt, not described or faked in a way.
Exactly. It's a complete experience than someone can understand intellectually, because sometimes like people who are watching this could be in a place where they are completely hopeless, but they see, okay, good for Francesca, but I don't think it's for me, like I don't think I could be there. So there could be people who are just quite in a place where there's hopelessness because they have tried everything. But I feel like your experience and you sharing your story really helps those people, because there is a hope. There are people who can support you. You don't need to go alone this path. And I find that your story really give that to the people, like that message. No, you don't need to be hopeless. And that's what we try to give from these podcasts. Like there is like you don't need to go alone in this path. And I'm
Yeah.
so glad to hear your transformation and. Yeah, so like talking about this whole path, like spiritual path, what really made you come into this whole spiritual journey? Because there are so many things we can do in our life. Like, what made you come into the path, like spirituality?
Well, I
I
had a
remember, I remember that you've already mentioned about oneness, and you've already aware about this even before you met me. So yeah,
yeah. I mean, like I had as many other people do, a midlife crisis before midlife, but I do had that. I started like I started questioning everything. Like, why do I do the work that I do? Why do I live in this place? Why do I live with this? Why do I have this partner? Like, I mean, everything crumbled, and
yeah,
I found that the answers that I had before weren't right anymore, weren't like what I really wanted to. It was slow though, even though when everything came to, to change, it was something that it was a slow build up until everything like crumbled. It wasn't sustainable anymore. The life that I was having before wasn't sustainable anymore. And then I started like a new kind of mentality, a new kind of, like way of seeing the world and seeing my life, and also seeing the way that I was carrying myself around, and and the ways that I was thinking about my life and the future, and as I said, the wishes that I had. And so I started, like getting curious, and the more curious I got, the more answers the more questions rather I started having. And so I guess as it is for a lot of people, I started with YouTube and opening up around many creators, and also many writers and many authors and many spiritual guides and gurus. And sometimes some things stuck, some others didn't, some resonated, some didn't. And those that resonated, I feel like are still I'm still digesting them every day in a way. Like it's not a one and done process. It's something that
exactly.
is ongoing, and I guess will always be.
It is going deeper and deeper, you know. Sometimes we might hear something intellectually, but what about embodying the spirituality? So that is what you mentioned even when we were texting to to have this podcast, the very fact that it was about embodying the spirituality. It was no
Yeah,
more about like having intellectual understanding, but embodying. And I believe that is what really missing in this world, this
yeah,
whole AI and the technology. And yeah, you want to talk about it? Yeah.
yeah. I feel like that's what I struggle the most even today. Like you can have the knowledge in your head, but if you're not feeling it, you're missing like half of the
If
piece.
it is
So you're
not
not.
in your body, if it is you're not embodying what you learn, what is the point if you aren't
Yeah,
feeling? Yeah. So that's what you have. I've seen the biggest transformation that like notice, and you have mentioned even in the text message about the embodiment. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is
I don't know if
ongoing
it's
process. Yeah.
yeah, it
Yeah.
is. I don't know if anybody may maybe struggle with different aspects of it, but for me at least it was the embodiment. It is still the embodiment part, like to
Exactly.
not intellectualize yourself or to lie to yourself without even maybe understanding what is going on and say, oh yeah, I
Exactly.
get it. But then are you feeling it? And I wasn't
Is
for
it in
sure.
your body? Are you living day to
Yeah.
day life? Do you feel it? The other person is yourself? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. So the next question I would like to ask you is like, what is the biggest shift you made from the whole process in this whole spiritual conquest and the coaching, and like, what is your biggest shift you say?
Well, I guess for me, the biggest shift is like I felt in my body for like one of the first time in my life what it felt to be held, what it felt to be felt as you are right. Even though you have struggles, even though you have challenges, even though you may not have understood everything, you are right. And I remember I get up from the coachings feeling it, like feeling energized, feeling it in my body in ways that few things that have ever done for me. So I guess that's for me what it is. I felt it right away. What it, I don't know if it's, I always wonder if maybe it's different from every person, but for me, that was the big thing. And it's the thing that makes me, um, still makes me want to be in contact with you and still makes me want to work together because I feel like I know that I can trust you and I know that whenever I might, face challenges, I can say, okay, well, I can get back together with Demi. And yeah, for me, it was that. I don't know, it was a felt experience. I don't know how to say it better. And also, you gave me some practices to, really cement this thing because you can, yeah, the session are great, but then if you don't walk the path in your everyday life, are you really, are you really experiencing it? And yeah, also that was a thing, like you remembering me that daily practices are essential. And yeah, I still do think that whenever I'm struggling is because I'm not daily practicing.
Exactly. Yeah. And so we decided to like talk about today self-love and how self-love is not selfishness. There's a myth which says that if you really love yourself, you're really selfish. I believe that's not the truth. I believe if you are not loving yourself, you are being selfish.
Yeah.
Because the very thing, when you really start loving yourself, you will really know how to love another person. Actually, to be like sharing about, I believe you'll be fine sharing about your partner. Uh, I want to share with you when you started falling in love with yourself because you really started loving yourself, not in a surface level, you truly started loving yourself. Yes, even the part that you didn't feel like loving yourself. I really remember these uh,
Yeah.
moments like where you were struggling. Okay, you were like telling, no, I can't. Like, and then I was supporting you how to like go about it. And then once you really fell in love with yourself, you finally found your partner. And now you're living together with the man.
Yeah.
And that is a beautiful thing. And like today, when I ask you, like, uh, how is it? I was so happy to hear that you guys are doing so well together because that's not what many like a common thing that I hear from the couple. So I was so happy to hear that. So it all started with this whole coaching and everything. It started with self love. I believe if you
Yeah.
do not, these are like universal truth. If you do not love yourself, you cannot love another person. This is like a universal truth. And I believe, like, once you started falling in love with yourself, even the parts that you don't like or you don't love, want to love, and
Oh, you're scared to show. Yeah.
that's when you really started like transforming your life and then you attracted your partner. And I remember that you were dating when we were having the
Yeah.
sessions.
Um,
You were
yeah,
sharing
yeah.
about that also with me. So, do you want to share like how self-love is not selfishness? Because
Yeah.
that is really there in the, like I've seen that, like whenever you say about self, okay, you're being selfish. That is not true. That is not true.
Yeah. I mean, like, I guess for me at least, self-love, the main issues I had with loving myself was the fact that I was diminishing my own needs and hide. And it was exhausting. It was exhausting. That's why I didn't date for like 5 or 6 years. I was single for a long time because it felt exhausting to date in the way that I was, like to hide myself, to diminish myself, to not even vocalizing my needs in fear of being rejected or of being a burden to someone else. And I love the fact that what changed and what led me to this relationship, which makes me really flourish, is the fact that even though it felt super hard in the moment, I had the courage to honor my needs and love myself for those needs, because those needs had, as I said, had always felt like a burden, had always felt like something that I shouldn't be feeling, that I shouldn't be needing, that I shouldn't be wanting. I shouldn't. And then when I had the courage to express myself, I met someone who was happy that I was sharing them, that who was happy that I was being honest, that I was being, like really myself and really expressing what I needed. And he was so happy that he was able to give me what I needed.
I get
And
tears
whenever,
listening to you.
and,
It's
and like,
beautiful. Yeah,
I
it's
am so
beautiful.
grateful for this relationship and for the way it made me realize that when he tells me that every day, like when people love you, they want to make your life easier. So if you love yourself, you want to make your own life easier. And I wasn't, because I was lying. I was lying to myself and I was lying to others, and I thought at the time that that was the only way that I could be loved. But I wasn't loved. I was hiding myself and finding people that were at least confused about my behavior. And so I was with my own behavior, because I needed to, like knowing yourself is an ongoing process as it is loving yourself. But oof, it was very important for me to be able to honor my my needs and my wishes and my
Yeah,
fears, even to
yeah,
be able to
yeah,
show all of
yeah,
these things.
yeah, yeah. So, like talking about Francesca, loving yourself, like, can you share? So sometimes people really have no idea what is this self-love, how to even love yourself. You know what I mean? So can you tell me practically, like, how did you really started loving yourself? Because that is what really resonates with people. Because sometimes people might be wondering, "Okay, what is really loving? Is it like to go to a mirror and say, I love myself, and you don't even feel it? So, you know what I mean? So they must be wondering, what is it that, how did you even do it practically? Yeah.
Oh, well, for me, the very first step was not being so harsh with myself mentally. Like I now I do get that it is the opposite. Whenever I'm very harsh with myself, I know that there is something that needs at least some love or some caring words, because being so harsh with myself meant that I expected other to be harsh with me, and that's what made me hide. And so that was the first thing. And it sounds easy, but it can be very challenging. But also it is
Because you
free.
because you're dealing, you can't see. It's just all
Yeah.
inside your mind. So it is very challenging. You got to like catch yourself, like being harsh on yourself and all that. Yeah, yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like that, I made it as a rule. Whenever I feel like I'm being, wow, that was a very harsh reaction of me. I know that there is something that needs some care, some love, some at least some, like at least some understanding. You can start with some understanding, and then
Yeah.
as you
Yeah.
as you go on, you can get more tender with yourself. I hope at least that's something that I wish on everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Do you want to share any other ways that you did practically? For sometimes, like 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 you taking yourself out of a abusive environment is also a way of loving yourself, you
Yeah,
know.
it is.
And
And
yeah, yeah,
yeah, especially if that's or you've known your whole life, like I mean, like it takes some, and
real
I guess that's
courage.
where, yeah, it takes courage, and also it takes, I guess that's where coaching can be very, very impactful. Someone from the outside, and it can also be yourself, like going outside of your situation and like not interpreting yourself in a way and say, okay, this situation is not right for me. And someone it can come from a coach, and with practice it can also come from yourself and going like, okay, this is not, as we said, loving for me, and it would be loving for nobody. But we are so entrenched with our ideas and with our identity in a way, like the identity that we are used to play, that this can become a hard thing to do. But with practice, it gets easier. It gets easier. It does.
Yeah, 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 right, right. So I see that like our topic again, coming back to the topic like loving yourself and how people are seeing that as selfish. I believe that if you really don't love yourself, that is what when you becoming selfish. The reason is because when you do not honor your feelings, not honor your needs, like what happens is you become resentful inside.
Yeah,
And then when you resent yourself, like let's say that you are trying to do something which you do not feel at that time, you know. And then, like, for example, let's say you are on your period and your partner asking, like, let's go out. But at that time, you want to stay in the house. But since you cannot express the need, like, let's say you do not express your needs, you go with the person. And then when you go with the person, you are resenting the person. And then you create
yeah,
really misery, even not only to him, but also to yourself, because you are not honoring your needs and not honoring your feelings. And this is what I'm saying, that if you are not loving yourself, you're really being selfish, because not only you are creating like really misery to other people, but also to yourself. And but
yeah,
at that time, if you like really honor your need, okay, I feel really drained right now. I cannot go out because I'm on my period, so I'm going to stay at home. And so I'm going to give myself care, and I let him go and have time, spend time with his friends. And then once he come back, you'll be in a better mood to like welcome him, because you express your needs and you honored your needs. And this is what I mean, like when I say loving yourself is the only selfless way to live. And since people are not loving themselves, they are go on begging from the other person, and when
yeah,
no one has love to give because no one is loving themselves. So it's like beggars begging for love, because none of the
yeah,
people have love in themselves. So where would they give it? So this is the normal reality of what I see in couples nowadays, because none of them are not loving themselves. In fact, they hate themselves. So if you are hating themselves inside, how would you possibly give love to another person? That's not possible. So only a person who truly loves themselves can love another person. And that is why I could, Francesca, help you and give that safe space and truly give that love for you to go on that healing process, because I
yeah,
have done that to myself. I have given that love for myself. And if I didn't go through that, I wouldn't be able to provide that for, doesn't matter how much knowledgeable I could be, that only through that experience. So I sometimes, like for the audience who is watching this, I always tell, like if you are choosing a therapist or someone to listen to your problem, it's very important the person has gone through their healing journey on their own. That is the only way someone could truly get helped and supported. Otherwise, it doesn't work. That is the truth.
yeah.
So
It will
yeah,
feel like
yeah,
wrong.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Okay, so Francesca, like sometimes people must be wondering, okay, I understand. It seems Francesca's life has transformed. Like, she has started loving herself and she has found her partner. And you said that you were single for 5, 6 years.
Yeah.
And so that's interesting. And you suddenly like met your partner while we were having the session. So these are very new things for you. And so like someone is watching that, they might be thinking, okay, what really happened? Like what really shifted in your life? Like practically, like what really happened? So like, you know what I mean? So can you tell some real examples, like one or two, three examples? Okay, I changed this from here. Like I changed this from to this, like something like that, where they can really like picture themselves. Like now we were talking a little bit vaguely so that they can really see solidly, okay, this is what truly happened in her life, and this is why she's living the life that she's living. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess the biggest shift for me was questioning what I was thinking, like not giving it to the mind that whatever came was true and right and loving toward myself. And the first and most important thing for me was like, this need has nothing wrong in it. Like me, like whenever I felt like I had a need, the process in my head was like, okay, I have this need. Will this be a burden to someone else? Okay, don't express it. Don't express it. Keep it for yourself. And I started questioning that flow of thinking. Like I said, okay, but why shouldn't I express it? There's nothing wrong with this feeling. And my body felt like exploding whenever I did that, like with anxiety and with like all the past feelings around, especially fear around being abandoned and being left alone. And I was, for the first time in my life, or at least for the first relationship in my life, where I was able to go through that, to really feel that anxiety and express myself and really like, okay, whatever. I don't know how this is gonna, how the outcome of this action is gonna turn out. Is he gonna reject me? Is he gonna, whatever? He's free, I'm free. But the most important thing for me is that I am free to love myself. And if the other person doesn't, for whatever reason, um, give me the outcome that I hope for, it is not the end of the world. It is not that
It
anxiety that I'm
just is
feeling.
not the right person for you.
Yeah, it isn't. Yeah. And it's also something that on the long run, it's going to be better than that anxiety that I'm feeling on the short run. And this is like the first step for me was questioning. And the second step was going through that anxiety and still doing it despite the anxiety. And this applies to so many things in my life, like the questioning around what is going on and the feeling about what's coming.
Can you tell me an
And
example also with the same, like how you were doing? Because
yeah, I mean,
your
like,
examples are really help the people who are watching you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like regarding of this relationship, I remember that when we first met the first time, I was super anxious, like super, super anxious, and it was so different from what I was expecting from. He was very relaxed, like he didn't have. It wasn't like the most, like firework date in like it wasn't a romantic movie. We had a
Yeah.
walk together,
Yeah.
and so I felt like um, I felt like both confused and also like I want to get away from this person as fast as I could. This is my avoidance pattern. I mean, like it was
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
avoidance pattern.
Yeah.
And so my idea was to ghost him, to not even express myself, to not even discuss with him about what I felt and what he felt. I felt like, okay, I will drop this thing. I used to hide as a personality trait. I have this thing of hiding when things don't go as planned. But as I said, okay, well, I really like this guy, even though the first date wasn't like fireworks and everything. I really like this guy. It felt like we had a
It is
connection.
fireworks are all in the movies, you know.
Yeah, they are. And I said, okay, let's talk with him about it. Like, I mean, let's express this thing that happened for me. Let's say my truth. Let's tell my, let's not
Oh, that's
hide. Let's not.
beautiful. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was, I remember that afternoon, I was so anxious about, like, I could have ghosted him. I could have just disappeared. I could have not, like convinced myself that no, okay, this is not what love looks like. And he surprised me. Like he surprised me with his honesty, his point of view, and we had like a 2 hour conversation via phone. I started like it started in a way, and then it ended up like with him telling me that he loved the way that I express myself, which is like the opposite of what I thought.
Exactly.
He literally said that the way that I express myself is a superpower, and I felt like he would hate me at the beginning of this call. And then we like get to know each other better. I got to relax myself and express myself, and ironically this is what he likes the most about me, that I express myself, that I actually let him know what is going on. And this is exactly what I need, someone that um welcomes my expression, welcomes me truly expressing myself. I don't know,
Yeah.
everybody may have different needs depending of their
The
past and their
personality needs, and that as we
yeah.
have discovered your personality needs also. And I remember expressing, like, expression is a huge need, personality need came up for you, as far as I
Yeah.
remember. Yeah. Yeah.
And so I was able to face my number one fear, which is rejection upon being myself. I had the courage to be myself, to love myself for who I am. And he responded with love. And it was surprising and beautiful. And it still is, because now we built a relationship and we live together.
Yes.
And I'm very, very
Oh, that's
happy.
great. I'm so happy to hear that. I'm so happy to hear that. And so, do you want to share more examples in your life as such? Because I remember how we worked on anger, and I remember one time, like, how you were like expressing that about your loved ones, and then how you released that from your system, which helped you to like get free from that energy, and how important it is. Because I find, Francesca, so many women out there, including me at one point, I didn't express my anger because, like, I was also so much into spirituality, so I kept it all inside, like just bottle up. And then once that energy started coming out, right, that's when I really could be who I am. And most of the women, especially spiritual women, are quite, not only spiritual women, like who get it, like women in general are quite repressed with their anger and also sexuality. And that's why they go for the binge eating, because there's a huge energy which is stuck up there, and then you go for, as a compensate, like you go and start eating more. So do you want to share about that as well? Because that is one thing that came up to me as I remember. And I remember you cycling, and then how that also helped you to come out of that, because that also bring out that energy because you're working on your legs. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, for me, yeah, repressed emotions, or rather emotions that wanted to come up but were labeled as a big no, no, you don't deserve to be shown up.
yeah,
Yeah, they were they still are a struggle, like what I
yeah,
feel like has shifted me the most is me catching up myself whenever it comes. It is not something that it is automatic anymore. There
yeah.
is a questioning, there is a moment in which I stop myself and say, okay, even though I'm not perfect yet, because these are
They're so
things that
perfect human beings. No, so I mean, me neither. I'm not a perfect human being neither. We are on process. Yeah. So yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I'd say that the biggest thing for me was questioning. It is still question. Maybe I'm this in this space right now of questioning. I don't know what comes next. I mean, like, well, also another shift that I notice in myself is that I have this, I do bring this energy in every I do struggle with old interactions sometimes, like with people that do know me and have this idea of me in their head. But I find them myself, and I'm really proud of that, that whenever I do have a new interaction and I meet someone new, I go like, okay, this is who I am, and that's fine. Like this is what I want to say, and it's fine. It's more than fine. It's me. It's who I am. It's like I go naked whenever I interact with someone. I'm naked right in front of them, And
And
this,
Francesca, like look at you, like first session when I remember, and now you coming here and talking publicly your story. I believe
yeah,
that's so courageous and so expressive yourself, like because this is what you always wanted to expression, right? That is your biggest
yeah,
need. So, and that is what you're doing. You're sharing yourself, right? And guess what? Like so many people would get help through that because there could be people who is watching that. Okay, good for Francesca, but this is not for me. I am hopeless. I've tried everything, but how can this? Like, how can it even? How? I mean, good for her. Like, they try to like distance themselves and think this is not for the person, but you give hope to these people. So yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, like you feel hopeless, you feel like you have no choice, and yet here you are. And yet here you are trying and curious and, like being called from this kind of content, from this kind of people, from this kind of energy. There you are. It's there that you are. You're not in the hopelessness. You're not in the in your mind, in the constant chatter, in the past patterns. You are in this curiosity, in this
In
deep
this
knowledge
creation,
that
in this creativity.
yeah, not in destruction, but in creation. And that hopelessness
Exactly.
doesn't
Yeah.
create anything. It reiterates itself. And that's why I remember, as I said before, like I felt like I wanted to work with you and to know more because I felt like, okay, this seems something new. And this is different from what I used to see and to feel and to even to think. And yeah, I feel like the biggest sign that there is more is this curiosity, is this um, even in the deepest, darkest of your days, there's this wish to experience something else, to be something else, to set aside the darkness, to set aside the mental chatter, and to just not think about who you are supposed to be or what you should be saying or just and express yourself. And for me, at least, it was expression.
Exactly.
And as you said, and as I said, I'm not perfect. Like it is an everyday thing, but I'm doing it, and I'm so glad that I am.
Yeah. I'm so happy to hear that. Yeah. So one more thing I like. Okay. So going back to the same question, like, can you share more about like some of your experiences? Because those experiences are like what really resonates with the people. For example, like the whole binge eating story, if you feel like that is because I myself have, I believe that even you found a story about me sharing about binge eating. That's when you found my video and then you started going through the
Yeah.
master class and then you like sign up for my sessions. Yeah, so do you want to share about that shift also, like how you started staying with your emotion, and that is the only way you can go beyond the binge eating, whereas so many people are constant in a roller coaster, like okay, dieting and then like again, it's like again binging and dieting, and this is like it's like a cycle, it's like a vicious cycle which never ends. But you went beyond it. You started feeling your emotions. You start being with
Yeah.
emotions. I'm not saying that like there were times that you had relapses where you went back and then even that was you were eating very differently than before. Can you
Yeah.
share more about that? Because I believe that huge story as a woman, like we all I mean, I struggled for 9 years with binge eating, like I always went like whenever I felt something off, what I did was just ate something so that it just go underneath. But that was a vicious cycle. I never knew how to come out of that until I started welcoming my emotions and treated them like some children coming for caring. And then I just welcomed them. I started drinking a tea with the anger, drinking the tea with the stress. Like I started welcoming these emotions and my life shifted. And then I was no longer like was trapped or slave by this food. But food is something huge, like for especially women, because men normally go for different other things, but I believe food is something big in terms of uh, women. So you want to talk about your story, which the shift as well, because you had a huge shift in terms of that you started really staying with the emotions, and that's amazing. Yeah.
Um, well, I guess.
You want to tell
mm,
about before and then after that would make a huge, yeah, shift. I mean,
Yeah, I felt hopeless in the department of my dieting and my nutrition, and also the image that I had of myself, like I felt unlovable. I felt like in those moments I said, fuck it. I don't deserve anything other than this kind of fake pleasure that I get from, eating to the point of feeling ill. And that was a an expression of self-hatred in a way, but more than hatred, it was like suppression. I was suppressing myself. And now, whenever I feel like I overeat, I ask myself, like, what is going on? Like, you're full. Why more? Like, you know you're full. You feel you're full. Why more?
exactly. Why do you feel hungry, or do you feel some emotion? And are you trying to like feel that? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. And I mean, like, it's not that I do always. I mean, now I always catch myself. I catch myself that I'm full. Why go beyond? Why go more? And the reasons why I do it are because maybe, as you said, like I didn't express myself with maybe my family, or I have an idea inside of myself that I'm not expressing, or
Or
for whatever
you
reason.
have a business idea, but you're go on
Yeah,
procrastinating and you're not taking action out of yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. And I feel like I use that the energy that my body uses to digest is the energy that I should, invest in doing something else. I do remember you gave me an exercise about writing down what binge does for me, and what in which ways it is ruining my life. And I did
It's
it for
like the
21
looking
days.
at the pain side. It's
Yeah,
like you
because
looking at the
when you
pain. Yeah,
binge,
yeah.
when you feel like the urge to binge, you only look at the positive side. Like it feels like it feels like a relief, but it is not a relief. It's a
It's a vicious
perpetuating of pain.
cycle.
Yeah, it is
Yeah,
very vicious. And it pretends to be a liberation, like it pretends to be something freeing, something like delicious, but it isn't, because on the long term it is very destructive. It is a way, for me at least, it was a way to invest energy that I wasn't able to let go in healthy ways. I use that as digestive energy. I don't know how to express it better. At least for me, that was it. And still, as I said, I question myself whenever I have a stressful time, or whenever I'm postponing a conversation that I should be having, or expressing an idea that I have that I'm not having the courage to express. I do catch myself and say, okay, this is not hunger. This is something else.
yeah, yeah.
I don't know if
Rather,
that answers your question.
yeah, so it's like rather than we expressing ourselves, like what we do is we suppress ourselves with the food, and
Yeah.
that is not the, yeah. So sometimes I find that people have different needs. Like, for example, they have emotional connection need, So what they do is like rather than going and connecting, like this is emotionally connecting. Rather
Yeah.
than doing that, like what they do is they go for the food. Sometimes they find like security through the food, but rather than they need to create something like an income source for themselves, so they do not go for the food. They create healthy ways in order to find that security, find that safety in their life. you know yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that is interesting how you were like you know with the whole binge eating story as well. And so yeah, like, would you like to talk about more on this, like the anger? I believe like we went into that, but we couldn't really go into that. Like, would you like to share that how you expressed your anger, and then how that really transformed your life and then that make you feel alive, because anger is not a bad energy. That is
No.
your fire energy right there. If your fire energy is not there, that is, fire is what gives you aliveness. Fire is your breath. Fire is what gives you that energy. And if your fire energy is repressed, fire is what? Fire is anger. Fire is sexuality. And all that is repressed. How would you feel alive? You feel dull. You feel like a zombie, because the fire is what really gives you that energy. Because there are four energies, like talking about water, air, fire, and earth. And sometimes we are mostly in air energy, like thinking, thinking, thinking. But what about like grounding? What about grounding and coming back to the body? And that is earth energy. And then the fire energy is what gives that aliveness for us. That is the breath. And that is what brings out in your life. And that's when your life started becoming alive, because that
Yeah.
fire energy started coming out. And most of the women like keep that fire energy just repressed, because anger, oh my God, anger, how, like how can we get angry, But anger is not a bad thing. If anyone's like, it is very natural whenever your boundary is crossed. If you do not feel anger, then your system does not function well, you know. So
Yeah.
whenever a boundary is crossed, you need to feel anger, because that is the way how our system works, But then we have been repressing that anger for so long, and sometimes people don't even know that they like it's just so out. Can you remember how we did the bioenergetics and
Yeah.
like how we take it out? And whereas your father also started knocking on the door
Yeah. I do remember that.
because he was screaming here in the room, like to bring out these energies. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Sometimes I even forgot how. I remember I used to build up anger and then explode like once or twice a year. I don't know if this is a normal experience.
and what happens is then you destroy relationships and all that, because
Yeah.
that, yeah, and then that's not the way to go, and then everything gets ruined. The relationships also get really, because because it is come with a force. It's like coming with like a tsunami effect. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, as we said before, like, um, anger is an expression of a need in a way. Like, as you said, like a boundary gets crossed and some anger should come out because it is what it's supposed to do. Like, but then if you've been conditioned about not like not being a burden to anybody, and anger, especially for women, has been labeled as something that don't be a burden for them. Just go along with what everybody is saying or doing or whatever. And I mean, like for me, at least, it all comes around. It all comes back to the idea that I felt like my need didn't matter, especially if they were a burden to someone else. So I just kept them down, and like I used to have some issues with my family, my parents, my mother and my father for many different reasons, and I wasn't able to express anger healthily in a healthy way. Like I used to have this explosion whenever and nobody understands anything when you explode, because it's like, what have I done? I didn't say anything wrong. But maybe it's something that has built up in months and months and months of you not expressing yourself, of you not saying, oh wait, this thing doesn't feel right for me, this thing doesn't, like, sound good to me. And it takes time, it takes practice, it takes, like, you taking, whenever a small thing happen, start with that. Start with, like, I at least for me it was that I started with small things, like with, I don't know, maybe someone asking me to do something that I didn't want to do. I felt anger in that moment, but I felt angry with myself because I felt angry that I wasn't able to say no. So I started with that. Instead of, building up anger and resentment, I said no to small things.
Exactly. That's your
I started
boundary.
with small.
Yeah. You
Yeah,
started expressing your boundary. No, I can't. No is a sentence for itself,
yeah,
you know? Yeah,
I can't or I don't want to.
exactly.
That's even like, a riskier one because if you can't, okay, you can't, but if you don't want to, it can be perceived by the wrong people as, what are you saying? You don't want to, but I asked, like, ain't you supposed to accommodate me and with
Yeah,
and my needs?
exactly. With those people who get really upset about we setting boundaries are the very people we should have the boundaries. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Those are the very people we need to have boundaries because those who are getting really upset when we set boundaries. Yeah, yeah. And I remember, like, can you remember that when we do bioenergetics, how we express ourselves more? More, I can't do it. Like when we were
Yeah.
like expressing in that way, that is when our like we are fully expressing ourselves because for how long we've been conditioned to say, like when our whole body says so, we go and say yes, okay, I will do it. But when our whole body is screaming, no, I can't do it, no, you know.
Yeah. Whenever it screams something, that's like usually there's a treasure there. Whenever it really doesn't want to do something, really doesn't want to say something, that's where, at least for me now, that's where I get curious because I say, that's a suspicion reaction to something. So at least the biggest shift for me has been this one as well, like being curious about where my mind doesn't want me to go, where my, like, no, 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 don't say that, don't say that, don't say that. Why don't you want me to say that? Or like, please, 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 please say yes, say yes, say yes, even if you don't want to. And I go like,
Why?
I don't want to. Why should I say yes?
Exactly.
And
And how much people pleasing involved in this whole process.
oh, yeah,
Talk about that, like this whole people pleasing just, I mean, it looks good from the outside, but trying to be a nice person, which makes you a really, like, that doesn't work for you, At the end, like, no one's happy because we are not being authentic with each other and we're trying to please each other. And
yeah,
that doesn't work. Yeah.
yeah. We try to avoid a little discomfort, but then what comes next is like a build up of something else that whether it is stored in the body, whether it is, as I said, in explosions of anger that come out of nowhere, they don't come out of nowhere. They are just, you know, you avoid little things and then they snowball into way, way bigger and way, way worse things, for me at least.
Exactly. Yeah. 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 So, like, what are your like spiritual insights that you gained through the whole coaching process? Like, and how did you embody them in practical life? I believe we put a lot of attention on the emotional healing side, but at the same time, the spiritual component, like spiritual side, also is parallel to that we've been working. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like one of the biggest confirmation that I had with our work together is that the truth is always the best choice. It is always the best choice, even though it can be painful as fuck.
Uncomfortable in the
Yeah,
moment.
or even if it doesn't
That's
make
so
sense.
beautiful. That is so beautiful what you just
And
shared.
it's true. Like, I mean, once again, it is true. And like it is becoming for me a compass. Like, if I'm not sure whether or not I want to do something or I want to say something, I ask myself, is this the truth? Is it the truth? Is this how you're truly feeling? Is this what you truly want? Is this the true direction that you want to give to this situation or to my life in general? To me, truth is like, it is
So
like a warm,
liberating. So
yeah, it
liberating.
is. It's like a warm cover because even if things don't turn out as you wanted to, you have at least this like this warm feeling of, at least I told the truth. Even if the relationship didn't go as I wanted to, at least I told my truth. And the sensation that faking gives you is so bitter. It is so unpleasant. I mean, like, that's the biggest takeaway for me spiritually. That truth always, 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 even if it is in the longest run, it pays out. It makes you feel better in the end. It
Yeah,
will.
yeah. And sometimes, like being authentic and being truthful is not very comfortable at the moment. Sometimes you might like some person might be in a relationship where like they do not feel authentic in the relationship, but they just keep on going. But it is not their truth, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But then expressing that at that moment is the liberation that they need to be
And
doing.
it
But
can hurt.
it can hurt, and also it is you need to have a real courage. For me, when I needed to let go of my accounting and all that, so qualifications aside, and come to this whole spiritual career, wasn't easy, but I felt that is my truth, and I will honor that. And all other people around me was like, what are you doing? Are you crazy? Like, I mean, you can earn a lot like through the accounting career. What are you doing? And because it is, spiritual coaching is even new to the Europe. So imagine even the Asian culture,
Yeah.
it's even more new here. So everyone was questioning. And I didn't see anyone is even succeeding in the career, but still that was my truth. And for this to honor, you need to have real courage within yourself to honor your path, honor your truth, honor your intuition, you know. And
Yeah. And
and when
also
we are
say,
honoring that, we are opposing all other people surrounding, especially our loved ones.
yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah. It is
Yeah,
contagious in a way. Like,
yeah, yeah. And you need to have real courage, like even when everyone around you saying no, don't do this, but you just walk your path, even sometimes you might feel alone, but that's how it is. And that is beautiful what you said about like questioning, like, is this the truth? Is this my truth? Like, I mean, even like for me, when I am on my spiritual journey, like uh, number one value that I had was truth, and then second, love. So truth was
yeah.
the highest. Yeah. So
Mine as well. Like,
yeah,
the truth is
yeah.
the answer to so many problems. Like, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah. So do you like have anything that you want to share on your own, like in this podcast, so that other people can hear, or is there anything that you want to share? Or you have anything to ask, or like whatever, like, yeah, this is something very naturally we are just going. I mean, now it's 1 hour plus. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, like, what mm, where I still struggle,
yeah,
and yeah, it is with being kind with myself, not being self-indulgent, not being,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
whatever, you will take care, being, telling the truth, and also being kind with myself. And self-kindness is self-love in a way. Like, it is not self-indulgence. It, the way that you help me with our coaching is the way I want to hold myself. It's
Oh, that's
like,
beautiful.
be
Yeah,
there,
because
be
it's like
true.
completely unconditional and just
Yeah, I mean, like,
giving.
whatever comes,
Yeah,
let it come.
yeah.
And I feel like this is I wish I had a little Dilmy on my shoulder every day, because that's I'm working on building a little
Oh.
Dilmy inside,
That's
like,
sweet.
but it's true. I mean, like, um,
Oh,
yeah, I mean like that and if self-kindness means in this moment, okay, I need help
Yeah,
with what I want to
exactly.
do. I need help
Yeah,
with changing. Go for it. Like give
yeah.
that to yourself.
Yeah, even that is self-love, giving yourself this whole coaching process is a huge, like a self-love act for you. And at the same time, I find there are two ways of self-love. One is this whole unconditional love, which is come from the mother. And there's another kind of love which we are not very familiar with, which is the father's love. And that is what you call the respect. And that is what the boundaries. And that is
Yeah.
what saying no is. And this is what is not very familiar with. Women are so much into this unconditional acceptance and unconditional giving and love and all that. It is there. But then, how about this aspect? How about this? The father's love. I find like, let's take an example. Like, let's say when the when you go and like fail an exam, your mother comes and say, "Oh, I understand you feel hurt. Like it's all right. Like I get it." And then what mothers love is she's accepting and giving that unconditional love and being there with you with the emotions and accepting you. "Oh, it's okay. Like you failed. I understand." And she's there for you, and she's not judging you, but she's there for you. And then the other side of the father side, "Oh, okay, you failed the exam, so let's have a timetable next time, the structure,
Yeah.
and then okay, next time we'll plan it this way so that we can pass the exams. And here's the boundaries, here's the timing, and like so it's like two different sides of love coming together. And I believe self-love is that coming that unconditional acceptance as well as the respect, which is the respect part is where the most of the women I find like
Yeah.
struggling. Even I myself is struggling with the whole respect side because that doesn't come natural to us, which we are very unconditionally loving and this whole acceptance part. But then what about their respect side? What about their boundary side? What about saying no to the people that we need to say? you know. And I believe these two aspects need to come together. And that's when the true love, like the self love, really just comes as a whole. Yeah.
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah. Okay, Francesca, we can wind up our podcast. And I really enjoy talking to you after some time.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad to hear about your partner and you living together with him. And so I wish you all the very best in your spiritual journey. And thanks for coming here and sharing your experience. And I'm incredibly proud of you for coming here and expressing in this way because I remember the first day I met you and the day now when I see you and coming here public. This is this goes public, and you coming here and sharing your story. Video is on. Everyone can see you, and you sharing your wonderful stories here on public. I believe that's a huge achievement. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you, Dime.